Let's talk about the single most complex object in the known universe. And get this, it's inside your head right now. It weighs about 3 pounds, and it's responsible for, well, everything you are. We're diving into the human brain.
Think about it for a second. Every thought you've ever had, every memory you hold dear, every single move you make, it's all being directed from one single place. So you gotta ask, what's really running the show up there?
All right, let's take a tour of your body's command and control center. This is the one organ that is, and I mean this literally, the source of everything you think, feel, and do. And to really get it, we've got to start with the big picture.
So, before we can understand the brain itself, we have to look at the network it commands. We're talking about the human neural system. You can think of it as your body's own super complex electrical wiring.
Okay, so it really all boils down to two main parts. First, you've got the central nervous system, or CNS. This is mission control, right? It's the brain and the spinal cord making all the big decisions. Then you have the peripheral nervous system, the PNS. That's, well, it's everything else. It's the massive network of messengers connecting mission control to every single part of your body.
So, how does all this information travel? Well, it's a super fast two-way street. You've got these afferent fibers, which are basically your sensory spies. They're sending intel from your body up to the brain, like, hey, this stove is hot. And then, boom, the efferent fibers kick in. They're the action squad, carrying orders from the brain back out to the body, screaming, get your hand off of there now. It's this incredible feedback loop, and it all happens in a flash. Okay, so we've got the network down. Now let's zoom right into headquarters itself. We're heading for the main event, the part of the brain that makes you, well, you. This is where all the thinking happens.
Yeah, this is probably the part of the brain you picture when you think brain, right? The cerebrum, with all those famous wrinkles. It's the biggest part by far, and it's split into two halves. This is the home of all your high-level thinking. You know, solving a tough problem, figuring out what to write in an email, or even just your personality. It all lives here.
So all the real action happens on the outer layer, which is called the cerebral cortex. A good way to think about it is like a company with 3 big departments. You've got the sensory area, that's the mailroom, where all the incoming information arrives. Then there's the motor area, which is like the shipping department, sending out all the commands for movement. But the real magic, the CEO's office where the big, complex decisions get made, that's the association area.
And this is where simple data gets turned into actual meaning. See, the association area doesn't just get a signal. It figures out what it means. It's the part that takes, say, the sound of someone's voice, matches it to a face you have stored in your memory, and then connects an emotion to all of it. This is the absolute hub for memory, for communication, for what we basically call thinking.
So you have these 2 big hemispheres, right? How do they talk to each other? Well, they're connected by this massive bridge of nerve fibers called the corpus callosum. You can just picture it as a superhighway of information, making sure the left and right sides of your brain are always in sync, sharing data, and working together as one solid team.
All right, now we're going to go a little deeper, because underneath all that complex, high-level thinking, there's a much more primal, powerful system at play. This is where our feelings and our most important memories are made.
Deep inside the brain, you'll find the limbic system. It's often called the emotional brain. Think of it as an older, more primal part of you. This is where your emotions live, your core drives like hunger, fear, you name it. If the cerebrum is the calm, calculating CEO, the limbic system is the powerful emotional engine room driving the whole ship.
And in this emotional core, there are 2 little structures that are absolutely critical for, well, for how you experience life. Their names might sound a bit complex, but what they do is super fundamental. We're talking about the amygdala and the hippocampus.
Let's start with the amygdala. It's this tiny almond-shaped thing, and it's basically your brain's internal alarm system. It is always on, scanning for threats, and it's a huge part of your survival instincts. It handles raw emotions like fear, and it can trigger those instant reactions, you know? Like that flash of anger you feel when someone cuts you off in traffic? Yep, that's your amygdala talking. It's a really powerful primal force.
And then right nearby, you've got the hippocampus. Now, if the thinking part of your brain is a giant library of information, the hippocampus is the head librarian. Its main job is to take all your short-term experiences, like what you ate for breakfast or the name of someone you just met, and decide what's important enough to be cataloged and stored away as a long-term memory. Seriously, without this little guy, you wouldn't be able to make any new lasting memories.
Okay, so we've covered thinking and we've covered feeling. Let's switch gears to doing. because there's another major part of your brain working nonstop behind the scenes, making sure all your movements are smooth and perfectly coordinated. Say hello to the cerebellum. It's tucked away at the back of your brain, and it's the second largest part. I like to call it your movement maestro. See, your cerebrum might give the order, like, hey, pick up that glass of water, but it's the cerebellum that calculates all the tiny, smooth, precise muscle movements you need to actually do it without making a mess.
And you know what? Here's the perfect, real-world example of what it does. You ever wonder why people might stumble a bit or slur their words after a few drinks? It's because alcohol directly messes with the cerebellum. It just throws that delicate coordination completely off balance. It's a perfect demonstration of just how crucial this part of the brain is to our everyday movements.
So just think about what it's doing for you right this second. It's keeping you sitting upright. It's handling your balance. And it's controlling the precision of every single voluntary action you take, from something small like writing your name to something big and complex like running or playing a sport. It really is the silent partner behind every move you make.
All right, for our last stop on this tour, we're going to the most ancient part of our brain, the brainstem. This is the real unsung hero. It's the part that quietly manages all the critical life support systems you never, ever have to think about.
I mean, just look at this stuff. A key part of the brainstem, called the medulla, is basically your body's autopilot. Let me ask you, have you consciously thought about your heart rate in the last minute? Or about taking your next breath? Of course not. That's because the medulla is handling all of it for you. Your heartbeat, your breathing, even swallowing. All these critical functions that keep you alive are just running on their own in the background.
Ultimately, you can think of the entire brainstem as the main data cable. It's the absolutely essential bridge that connects the supercomputer in your skull to the rest of the network running down your spinal cord. And without that connection, well, nothing else would work.
So, when you step back and look at the whole thing, it's just incredible. From the conscious thoughts happening in your cerebrum, to the deep emotions in your limbic system, the precise movements coordinated by your cerebellum, and the automatic life support run by your brainstem, it's all happening at once, all the time. Your brain really is the ultimate command center. And that leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending thought. We've just seen how your brain builds your entire world. It processes your senses, it creates your memories, it generates your emotions. But if your entire reality is being constructed inside this one single organ, what happens when it makes a mistake?